Japanese arcades have ran in store for a long time now. They are legendary as they can be known for games like fighting games, claw machines, and especially rhythm games. I also assume that Japanese arcades are way more better than our American arcades. The crazy colorful monster cabinets over the US's shitty rigged one-ticket wheel spinning games. There's one category I like about arcades, the racing games. Yeah, that's right, the two-pedal crazy track 4-speed manual shifter cabinets that bear licensing rights to a few major car companies. Of course, all these racing games look cool and all, but two of them stand out of the very best. They make the Fast and Furious and Need for Speed arcade franchises look like babies compared to them. And those two games are none other than Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune and Initial D Arcade Stage. There comes a lot to similarities and differences between the two of them. Hi, I'm Bohemius, and I will be taking a look at two racing arcade games from Japan that are strong enough to compete and see who is the best. Well, at least of what I know about. Before we latch ourselves in, I just want to give a quick reminder that this is my first video, and by which in all means I may be a bit inexperienced at content creating or commentary, as well as giving factual evidence to people like you. This took a lot of planning when my YouTube channel has come, and if it's not successful, then will fall down. Now let's slide down a token, or shall I say scan our game card, and be Wangan Midnight was a street racing manga written and illustrated by Michiharu Kuzunoki in 1990, not to be confused with Michiru Kagomori. The comic spanned for about 18 years until 2008, and it was pretty popular enough to have its own movie, a short-lived anime, and even a video game series. The story is about a boy named Akira Asakura who aims to drive a faster car after being beaten by the infamous post-9/11 turbo-driven paramedic Tatsuya Shima. When he visits a junkyard, he comes across this blue-trashed Nissan Fairlady Z. He has been told that the car is haunted and had many accidents, even killing an owner, yet the idiot proceeds to buy it so he can restore it and tune it to the fastest car on the Beisho route of the Tokyo Metropolitan Highway System, also as known as the Wangan. The high schooler takes on a high-speed adventure to become the fastest on the Wangan with his new but spooky Z. Akira's type of street racing can be influenced by fellow street racers in real life, reaching top speeds on the Tokyo Metropolitan Highway, also known as the Sudoku. Wangan Midnight's arcade debut dates back to 2001 with the first game Wangan Midnight R. That's a lot different from Maximum Tune because of the driving physics equality. It also had a counterpart to the PS2 called Wangan Midnight. The real kicker, Wangan Midnight or Maxi Tune for sure, rolled out on arcade floors in 2004. Bandai Namco, yes, the Bandai Namco with the Pac-Man and that stuff, published the game and received the development support from Genki, a Japanese game company best known for the games that inspired the style Wangan Midnight has. Tokyo Extreme Racer, or Shotoku Battle instead. Maximum Tune grew a lineup of games 1 to 6 for the past 16 years. Yet we Americans who are only stuck playing with Maximum Tune 5 are available at all Round 1 arcades in America, so the game may be mostly exclusive to Japan, but has been and always will be an iconic game staple for many years. Initial D was another street racing manga created by Shuichi Shigeno in 1995. Initial D's manga spanned for a healthy 18 years up to 2013. Initial D was one of the most popular mangas back in the day, wishing Wangan Midnight, which came first before. It was popular enough to have a cult classic anime, a live-action movie, a badass trilogy of 3 anime movies that rewind back to Initial D first days, and yes, a very big video game series. It's about the story of a teenager named Takumi Fujiwara who didn't like racing at all, but that all changed when his friends dragged him into the wacky world of racing on the mountain, starting with the very first encounter of an actual street racer named Keisuke Takashi. Takumi continues to race with his delivery car, the Toyota AE86. The car may look like an ordinary hatchback, but just wait until you find out how much these would cost on eBay. Initial D's style of racing can be traced back to a similar sport called Toge, a race that takes between 2 cars driving up or down the mountain, past first to win. Actually, Initial D is a great beginner series for those who want to get into cars and racing. You don't need to watch the entire F1 Championship or spend 5 hours watching stock cars drive in an oval. You could turn over to Initial D instead. Initial D's side of drifting can be influenced by, sorry if I get his name wrong, Keiichi Chuya, also known as the Drift King, who uses the same A86 models as Takumi to drift with. Initial D Arcade Stage made its debut at arcades in 2001 with version 1. Now please do note that Arcade Stage 1 to 4 all received the home port for the PlayStation consoles apparently. However, the arcade game lineup spanned from version 1 all all the way to Arcade Stage 0. Sega, the guys responsible for the Blue Hedgehog, published this series, every single one of them. There really has been any export for Initial D Arcade Stage for outside this country, but you still can play the important Arcade Stage 8 Infinity at Round 1 arcades in the US, considering Initial D Arcade Stage nowadays is limited to Japan only, but it still finds its permanent position in the history books for racing games. Maximum Tune and arcade streams have competed relentlessly throughout the years, and both arcade games scored to be a big hit with its debut. And I do find it interesting that Maximum Tune tend to make more sequels than Initial D Arcade Stage, which came before. There are a lot of differences between them, which we'll go through, and eventually see which is the better racing arcade game. We'll start out with the first impressions of the cabinet. As you can see, we have the Maximum Tune cabinet, which looks none other than an ordinary cabinet. Oh wait! What's this? Oh, a 6-speed manual shifter we got, eh? Very impressive. It stimulates a bit more like real racing, don't you think? It does come with an ordinary 2 pedals and the speakers mount on top of the seats as well. But even more interesting is the card reader it has. You can store your data. Sure, most racing games usually have these annoying boring number pads to insert your pin code for whatever you've stored, but I've never seen anything like it with Maximum Tune Scenario. Cabinets can be connected to up to 4 players, which seems comfortable if you have a group of friends to play with. Now I know you can store your data from the game in a card for keepsafing, but where do you get the cards? Well, first of all, these cards are called banner passports. They're compatible with newer fighting games made by Namco as well. Hell, it's even compatible with Mario Kart Arcade GP. Second, you get your cards like these at a separate cabinet called the Wangan Terminal, where you register your card and even customize your vehicles with it. So in all terms, I gotta say, Maximum Tune has a pretty nice cabinet. Initial D Arcade Stage's cabinet is a whole other different scenario. Well, not really. First, you have 2 pedals and speakers mounted on the seats. And you had this really shitty sequential shifter, which I gotta say is pretty bland. Of course, you only use sequential in all the Initial D games until 0, which was replaced with an H shifter, like Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune. What's so unique, but especially painful to me as a fat person, is that the bottom of the cabinet has been lifted, so you can lean onto the pedals while driving. Initial D uses a card like Wangan Midnight, but it works out differently. You register your card from the actual racing cabinet and even scan it too. It's an all-in-one terminal. What's even more impressive is that they even have tiny but little buttons to move around the menu. Even a button for starting the race too. Actually, if you hold the start button for a few seconds, your headlights will turn off and you can perform a blind attack if you want to turn the headlights back on. Just press start once again. So I say yes. The Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune and Initial D Arcade Stage cabinets are equally unique.
Sir.
Try forwards to the game's cars and tracks. Maximum Tune and Arcade Stage tracks very differ from each other, except for Mount Taikon and the Hakon region. Maximum Tune scenario options are just limited highway systems in Japan. However, since you cannot drive the whole track, you are given a certain beginning and end point to begin on the Metropolitan Circuit. Now, there is an extra option to drive around the whole Shotoku, but those are for only players who want to spend an extra 40 miles racing at this point. Go to Initial D! Like, of course, only one-way tracks are available for every other racing game as well. Well, technically 2 ways. You can go uphill or downhill. You can even change the daytime of it too. The roads you will be racing in the arcade stage are pretty unique, considering that there are very few obstacles to bump into. Tracks from small circuits like Mount Akina to the crazy roads for digital like Akina and Akagi. And to add, there will be some scary bumps in the road. Like, did you know you can find Mount Taikon? Or did you know that your car could be affected by an oil spill into Suika Pass? Or even some crazy ways to make your car go faster without boost, such as the Gutter one and the Yohazaka jump. Every track in both Maximum Tune and Arcade Stage have the potential, but what about the cars? Maximum Tune has fully licensed cars, as usual. In fact, they include both foreign exotics and JDM icons to drive in the game. Now, there used to be an option for RUF, but the licensing rights were given up in favor for the actual portion, the 6th Maximum Tune game. The latest addition to Honda cars didn't show up until 5DX Plus. Now, one thing that takes me off in Maximum Tune is that it lacks front-wheel drive cars. Yes, there was an Integra in the original Wangan Midnight manga, and it is true that front-wheel drive cars may be very fast. But there is no Civic or Prius. I mean, seriously. And here on Initial D, you have more than a fair share of JDM icons available. The choices range from a simple A86 to a special car like the Top Secret Supra. Sure, the lineup may be showing the maximum truth, but hey, at least they have front-wheel drive cars. These cars, in my opinion, have definitely more JDM influence than Maximum Tune. Of course, for Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune, it's possible for all cars to potentially reach up to 830 horsepower in game, but speed's not really the game for Initial D. With more curves, Initial D gets smashed by apparently drifting around corners. These cars are pretty cool in both games, to be honest. Now let's move on to the story. A career. Maximum Tune's where the story mode works by following up the story of the Devil's Lead. Now you may be in it, but you're definitely not part of it. You see, you actually kind of change the story a bit. If you're in first place in story mode, you collect a good ending that will eventually move you on to the next level on the chapter. If you lose, you alter a bad ending and you're forced to restart the whole list. However, you are allowed to tune yourself up with just Tommy. The initial D's case of scenario, the player is the guy who races against people as part of the story. You interact with the other characters, but you don't really follow their story. However, there is this thing that was exclusive to Arcade Stage 8 called Rival Side, where you beat all the story races with gold or higher, so you can unlock a special race where you can play as the antagonist, the rival. Now, you might even alter the entire fucking story of Initial D if Keisuke actually wants to stealth Takumi, but yeah! Stories are different, yet quite fun to play. Let's see what the other game modes are, the modes of games, like the time trial mode or something. In this topic, we are going to talk about game modes and multiplayer, starting with Maximum Tune. Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune. Now, of course, there's the obvious time trial, which it's pretty simple. You don't just drive on one or something, but you beat old timers on a part of the Shotoku Expressway. So for Maximum Tune, it's just a simple time trial mode. Now we look at the multiplayer, where you play at friends. You can fit only 4 people per race and stuff, going to a full track. You choose the circuit course and find the entry point of the track to begin at. Multiplayer can allow your friends to choose the daytime as well. There's also this other thing called Extreme Mode, where you choose to race on a track with your buddies and doesn't tell you where to stop. Sometimes you might even drive the whole line to see you run. What I almost forgot to mention, there could be records of ghost players from out of country, which is pretty unique if you ask me. For initial the arcade stage, time trial is playing as, well, race on mountain passes uphill and downhill for gold, silver, bronze rank. You might even win a medal while you're at it too. Multiplayer on arcade stage can only fit 2 players for a duel battle. So in conclusion, multiplayer is unique, yet similar to other racing games as well. Almost all video games need their OST to feel the experience, or BGM for those racing games like Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune or arcade stage. Maximum Tune usually depends on one composer, like most games obviously, and that BGM composer for WMMT is none other than Yuzo Koshiro. Now Yuzo is responsible for composing music for the popular fighting game franchise Streets of Rage, but Yuzo also composes great tracks for Maximum Tune games as well, like 2000s beats that actually slap hard while driving. You can even unlock and change BGM from previous Maximum Tune games. Initial D's use of BGM is pretty rare. For racing, it's a whole new level. Yeah, that's right, ever since its use in the anime. So hey, why not put Yorubi in the arcade game? And the result is gorgeous. The fact that they use music from actual licensed Yorubi artists is just fantastic. I mean, you're talking about Dave Rogers and Mega NRG, man. Hell, as far as I listen, I can decide which is better. I mean, both are pretty great, but should it be Chance or Yorubi? I've saved the best part for last, but not least, racing and physics. I've been saving this game for last because the physics are the most important part to our comparison. Initial the arcade stage physics change for almost every fucking game. Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune's physics don't change, and they stay the same way. The recipe for Maxi Tune's physics stays the same for every game and it gets competitive. No wonder the feeling of yanking the wheel left to right until it breaks gives you the same feeling for every Maximum Tune game Pac-Man, Namco's ever produced. Initially, the arcade stage tries experimenting with different driving physics to see which is comfortable. And I do must say, a curious mind is a healthy mind. I haven't left that out for the traffic part in Maximum Tune because the traffic is annoying! I know it's a few yellow vehicles and all, but please, they affect your race greatly. The lightest traffic car would be the teeny weeny Super Auto, while the heaviest would be a fucking truck. Initial D arcade stage has weather physics, while there is slippery rain, snow and Aikido, which can be the most painful drive ever. Christ, I bet there are some speedy hacks that could launch you up in the air in maximum tune. And while you're racing, did you know that you could choose which express line to go in maximum tune as well? Initial the arcade stage 8's drifting physics have you stopping on the pedals rapidly. I don't know what the hell are up with those physics, but geez, I guess it's as crazy as every other racing arcade game in the literally entire fucking universe. Well, after all that nonsense, we're almost finished. But wait, there's more! We almost forgot to compare which is better. Oh yeah! We start with the cabinet design. Initial, the arcade stage has a lifted bottom to lean while driving, which is painful for fat people like me. And so the answer must be maximum tune with a 6-speed 8 shifter. Bonus terminal cabinet included. Tracks in Initial D are incredibly fun with slight surprises that gain you speed. Yet Maximum Tune has boring, well-made highways to race on, so Initial D it must be. Cars in Maximum Tune are quite a big variety and have many licensed brands. Initial D arcade stage has an iconic touch of JDM. They even have front-wheel drive. Maximum Tune strikes again with this one. Story mode in Maximum Tune can be quite boring, but in arcade stage you get to interact with characters like it's your own story. So Initial D takes the point. Game modes like Time Attack and multiplayer for Initial D arcade stage are pretty simple, yet in Maximum Tune you can battle ghost players and defeat their records, thus making it suitable for Maximum Tune to take the point. Maximum Tune's BGM slaps hard! Initial D arcade stage Eurobeat is sick as well, and you could play previous tracks and modern versions of Maxi Tune, thus leading to Maximum Tune snatching the point. Initial D physics change over time like it's an experiment to see which has the comfortable driving, which is cool. Although I've never seen a game like Maxi Tune to have their crazy ass physics stay the same. But who cares? Initial D arcade stage it is. So the final score of Initial D versus Wangan Midnight Maximum 2 is Initial D arcade stage 3, Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune 4, and thus lays my conclusion. Initial D has been favored by a lot of people, but Wangan Midnight Maximum Tune is the better arcade pick over arcade stage. Sorry, D. Now before we continue, I would like to give a short montage of glitches and funny clips of Maximum Tune and arcade stage games the internet had to offer. So enjoy! Thanks for tuning in to my bullshit and getting confused at some times. This is my first video so far, and you probably shouldn't subscribe if this is my first time. Sure, no one may ever ask, but when I grow big, I'm gonna get a whole lot of people to be asking. I'll see you soon when I craft my next video after my basement laboratory. Bye!